To really understand how the University of Oregon arrived at where it is today, you have to rewind to the 1950s. A skinny, strawberry blonde kid with aspirations of running track becomes an Oregon Duck, enrolling at the university and eventually running the mile for now legendary coach Bill Bowerman, the same man who mentored the legendary Steve Prefontaine. Unlike Pre, the accomplishments of this other young athlete here at Hayward Field weren't all that memorable, but his relationship with Bowerman would become something that almost eclipses Prefontaine's athletic prowess.
My father's best friend was Bill Bowerman, who of course helped to found Nike with Phil Knight.
Knight graduated from Oregon in 1959 and enlisted in the Army. Then in 1962, he earned a degree from Stanford's Graduate School of Business. 2 years later, he and Bowerman would form Blue Ribbon Sports, which eventually took on the name Nike in 1978. The company exploded in the mid-'80s, and that incredible success would eventually help reshape the University of Oregon.
These people have changed the face of the campus.
Knight and his wife Penny began giving back, and in a big way. In 1994, they helped finance the $27.4 million renovation of the school's largest library, later named after Knight's mother. In 1996, Phil Knight donated $25 million to create endowed chairs and professorships, and to construct the university's School of Law, named after Knight's father, William. Then in 1997 and 98, there was a seismic shift. Roughly $8 million of Knight's money was donated to construct the Moshofsky Center, an indoor football facility, a first for the legendary donor.
They've changed the student experience. They've made it better for our faculty.
From that point on, the bulk of Knight's contributions have been funneled away from academics and strictly toward even grander athletic facilities.
You can feel the growth and the change, and the school's getting bigger, they're building more dorms, and a lot of that is due to the athletics program.
Consider this laundry list of largesse. Knight was the money man behind more than a third of the $90 million renovation for Autzen Stadium in 2001. In 2007, Nike contributed $1.5 million for a state-of-the-art video scoreboard at Hayward Field. That same year came the single largest gift ever to the university. Knight donating $100 million to establish the Oregon Athletics Legacy Fund. Then came PK Park in 2008, a $19.2 million baseball stadium named after friend and fellow Oregon booster Pat Kilkenny.
Our athletic facilities are through the roof, better than a lot of professional facilities.
They make the people who use them feel special.
2010 saw the completion of the John Jaques Center for Student Athletes. Critics call it the Jock Box, paid for entirely by Phil Knight, with an estimated price tag of $41.7 million. That box, of course, sits right next door to what is now the most prominent building in the entire city.
So this building for me is more than just about cement and glass and hardwood and concrete.
The $227 million Matthew Knight Arena, named in honor of Phil Knight's late son.
There's emotion that went into this building, and I hope it carries forward.
When they walk into the locker room and they see the amenities in the stadium and they see the uniforms that they're wearing, the players recognize that this ultimately is the guy who's behind it all.
But it's not just the athletes who realize it.
We built $160 million worth of facilities in the 12 years I was at Oregon, and Phil supported all of those.
Bill Moose served as athletic director at Oregon from 1995 to 2007, and like just about every top Duck athletic official, Moose spoke with Knight shortly after taking the job.
Phil was gracious enough to give me 15 minutes. That 15 minutes turned into an hour and a half.
Evidence that Phil Knight isn't just a donor, he's an insider.
I called Phil Knight when we had the finalist list for ADs and asked for any input that anybody at Nike could give me about those three candidates.
A friend to those who call the shots in the athletic department and the university.
And so we became friends. He became an unofficial member of my staff in a sense, and he wanted to get to know more about football, and he wanted to be closer to it.
But the closer he seemed to get, the more vocal the detractors.
There's no way that that kind of donation doesn't buy you some friendship and consideration.
But where would this school be without him? It's hard to imagine the football team enjoying the success it's had in the national spotlight without some help from Phil Knight.
The innovation that we have adopted as our motto, in a sense, came from Nike.
And in a world where college athletics is as much about the bottom line as it is about wins and losses, who better to have in your corner than Phil Knight, a modern master at making sports profitable?
What happened this year is just not an event, it's been a process.
But should the co-founder of Nike have such influence at a public institution? How much influence is at the heart of the debate? Because there's a perception that something more might be going on behind the scenes, and that all those donations come with strings attached. Critics are quick to point to several situations that they say prove that this is in fact the University of Nike.